You're listening to Mind Over Me, the mental wellness podcast with me, Scott Carter. I am a licensed therapist. Here at Mind Over Me, I offer an unconventional approach to therapy and mental health in general. The therapy system is misguided and broken. So many people are turning to mental health professionals for help, and they're just not finding it. It's my goal to bring some unconventional means, unconventional views, and maybe some unconventional techniques to helping people find mental wellness. Instead of being dependent on a system or a medication or a professional for mental wellness or mental stability, my goal is to always empower and help people by teaching them how to help themselves. This podcast is about self-efficacy, self-determination, and self-empowerment. Every person needs to find a better connection with themselves. Whether you realize it or not, you are the answer to your problems. You just need better information, and I hope to give it to you. So, thank you for being here. Let's dive in. And we are back. Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, seekers. Glad you're here. Glad that you're listening. I hope you all are well out there. I'm sure a lot of you are not. That's okay. It is tough these days. Everybody's struggling. Don't take it personally. It's easy to take your own struggles and chalk it up to a bunch of personal flaws. See ourselves as broken. See ourselves as defective. When you engage into a certain mental health system, they are more than happy to make it sound like you're the problem and you're the one who's defective, and all of that. And so my goal, my job is to help kind of debunk some of those messages. And this topic kind of has to do specifically with that line of thinking. We're going to debunk some incorrect messages specifically about sadness. We're going to talk about sadness today. The ever important and extremely misunderstood emotion of sadness, but most things I find when it comes to mental health behavior and your psychology are completely misunderstood these days, and most of us are bombarded with a lot of incorrect and false and inaccurate messages and beliefs about just how the mind works and emotions. And today we're going to talk about sadness specifically because sadness is a very important emotion. It's a very healthy emotion. And it's generally seen as bad. It's generally seen as a negative emotion or an unhealthy emotion. We're going to break that down. I'm going to break it down in this episode because I've come to learn that sadness is actually a very, very good emotion. It's a very healthy emotion. And while it may be an uncomfortable emotion, there are a lot of good, positive, and healthy things that come from sadness. So we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about that. That's what this episode is all about. We're going to talk about how sadness is a gift. And if you find that sadness is uncomfortable or distressing, part of that could be due to your own perspective about sadness, your own belief system around sadness, what you think it is, what you think it isn't, whether or not you think it's healthy, unhealthy, bad, or negative, or that when you feel sadness, you're just trying to chase the emotion away or get rid of it. Because that's what I notice these days with most people when it comes to anything uncomfortable, psychologically, emotionally. They just get to work trying to get rid of that experience. Go away, go away, go away, go away is sort of their attitude. The goal often is to feel better or just feel good. Feel good, whatever you have to do to feel good, whatever it takes. Just don't allow yourself to feel bad in any way, shape, or form. That's not healthy, and it's especially not working. So in this episode, I'm going to break down some of what I've experienced with sadness, what sadness actually is, and why sadness is good for you, and why you should allow yourself to experience the emotion of sadness. And hopefully by the time the episode ends, I will be able to convince you to just allow yourself to just plunge yourself into sadness when it's appropriate, when it feels okay to do, and why you should do it in general. If you're new here, I just generally, if you're not familiar with my work, my take on mental health, I am generally in a state of rebellion against sort of mainstream therapy, mainstream psychology, the mainstream medical model for treating mental health. I am a clinical practitioner. I work with people day in and day out. For the most part, I see people improve. I see them get better. And frankly, my approach to all this, my approach to mental health is quite unconventional. I've just kind of gone rogue. I'm even sort of tempted to change The title of this podcast, To the Rogue Therapist. But one of my core messages is that whether or not you realize it, you have the ability and the power to take control of your mental health, to be in charge of your mental health, to be the one who determines whether or not you get well or whether or not you experience wellness. And in order to do that, you may need to reject a lot of the mainstream belief systems and core ideas around what it means to be mentally healthy. And I was having a similar conversation with some friends earlier today, not too long ago, a little bit about this. So I was talking about ADHD as an example. As best as I can tell, this diagnosis exists primarily because there's a one-size-fits-all learning environment that has been pushed by public schools, and if a kid has a hard time fitting into that box, then they are labeled with a disorder. They're pathologized. I have many gripes with schools and public schools when it comes to mental health in general. They have a tendency to pathologize normal childhood behaviors. And I was having this conversation with another friend where it's like, and I realize that teaching is a hard job. I really do. And I love teachers. I admire the job. My mom was an educator for a very long time. It's a very noble profession. And in many regards, I consider myself to be a teacher of sorts. But I can't help but to notice that, like, middle school teachers especially, it's like, what has gotten up inside of your butt? It's almost like they're looking for problems. It's almost like, not all of them, of course. I realize middle school is tough. That's a tough population. But a lot of these middle school teachers, personnel, staff, it's like they're getting kids in trouble for stuff they don't need to get in trouble for. They don't know how to let things go, some of them. And so they start pathologizing normal childhood developmental behaviors. And so when kids are going through a normal growing process, those behaviors can be quickly labeled as a problem by schools and teachers and school staff. It seems to be motivated by just the desire for strict compliance and obedience and a one-size-fits-all system of teaching and learning. And when a kid doesn't fit into that, they're often labeled with ADHD. And so let's take a standard ADHD kid, and maybe that kid wants to move and interact and do and touch and feel and just interact with that thing. They want to experience it because some people learn by doing it. I'm very much built this way, by the way. It's probably one of the reasons why I've struggled with school. It's like, you can tell me all day how to do something, but until I do it, I won't really be able to learn it or understand it. And schools have kind of moved away from that model of like doing and then understanding it. It's just regurgitate the information, right? Like, here's information on how to do the thing. We're not going to teach you how to do the thing. We're not going to let you experience the thing itself. We're just going to give you the information about the thing and expect that to be good enough. And if you want to move and touch and feel and interact and understand it, you're a problem. So in many regards, I feel like the ADHD diagnosis it's just a problem. I feel like I could do a whole episode on this whole ADHD thing. I prefer not to. Maybe it'll be in the cards down the road. But there's just such an oversimplification of a certain set of behaviors that, well, A, I don't understand why they're labeled as a problem in the first place. B, what they could mean instead. C, that the only treatment for said disorder is drugs. Is to just give them drugs. But the problem gets worse, I'm finding, because I do a lot of work with teenagers. I do a lot of work with young people. When they're given a label like ADHD or maybe autism, which I actually think the autism diagnosing problem is a problem in itself. I don't know that that autism is being accurately or effectively placed and diagnosed where it belongs and where it doesn't. But again, the thing that troubles me in situations like these is the kids are often treated as though they can't grow, change, adapt, learn, or whatever, right? That's just how they are, and the only way to help them is by making things easy for them, when in fact that is completely false. I've seen this with autistic kids, for example. They're often treated as though they can't learn, they can't grow, they can't change, they can't adapt. When they absolutely can, they should, and it's good for them. But unfortunately, a lot of them are getting this message of like, well, everybody's just going to have to make life easy for you from now on because you have autism, or maybe because you have some limitations or because you have some struggles. And there's a lot of bad things in this world. And amongst them is to convince kids that they're incapable because they have a certain limitation. Right? Because that's a lot of what's happening is we're just going to convince you that you're incapable. So of course they take this into adulthood, along with many other false or incorrect information about life, behavior, mental health, etc. And so at some point, I just think there needs to be more mental health professionals who see these problems and who speak up and speak out. I'm finding more and more of them on X. There's just a lot more mental health professionals speaking up and saying, this is bullshit. There are some who are extremely vocal about ADHD. There's one guy that I follow on X, and according to him, ADHD is a completely bogus diagnosis, that the whole thing is bullshit. I have a stronger argument that agrees with that line of thinking than I do with the line of thinking that it does exist and that we just need to give kids drugs. The same guy is online, really going after SSRI medication, basically saying that it's criminal, that the mental health system in general has complied with giving so many people SSRI medication. I've had many adults tell me over the years that their SSRIs help them a lot. I I don't have a good response to that. I'm not going to say that I know better than them. I know their situation better than them. I'm not going to say that I know their experience better than them. I've seen a lot of adults say this though, that their SSRI medication just helps them function, for example. However, in my nearly 25 years of working with teenagers, I can't think of a single one who has told me that their SSRI medication really helped them. It's different for adolescents. They're still developing, they're still growing, they're still becoming who they are, right? Their brain is going through a lot of changes, etc. Their body's going through a lot of changes. And I've just frankly never had a teenager tell me that, oh, thank God for my SSRIs. Thank God for my Zoloft. I wouldn't be able to function without my Zoloft. I've just never heard it. I have, however, seen teenagers who have gotten more suicidal, and especially teenagers who have gotten extremely suicidal when they discontinued it. My point in all of this is I want people to create a large-scale questioning and pushback sense of the need to question or push back on these stories that we're told that, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain and that's why you need to take this SSRI medication. By the way, like if you ever go down the rabbit hole of how they proved that there is a chemical imbalance in your brain and that's what SSRI medication is correcting, like you go down that rabbit hole and frankly, there's no way to conclude anything other than this whole chemical imbalance story is complete bullshit. There's no evidence for it. None. There's absolutely no evidence to support it. Let alone your doctor coming to the conclusion that you have a chemical imbalance without ever conducting any kind of a test. I mean, did they give you a spinal tap? Did they take a sample of spinal fluid to test your serotonin levels in your spinal fluid to see if it represents what's going on in your brain? And then you realize that serotonin is primarily created and stored in your gut, not your brain. Because I got that story in graduate school about how your synapses, right? Your synapses are transferring serotonin between them, your brain synapses, and that the SSRI is basically prohibiting or slowing down the reuptake of serotonin between the synapses, and that's why you're experiencing more happiness because your brain is communicating more serotonin across the brain. That is the literal story I got in graduate school from my psychopharmacology class. And then you learn that most serotonin is produced and stored in the gut, and then you're like, wait, what? Yeah, I was lied to, right? Like the whole story about your synapses, yeah. I'm kind of trying to paint this picture to illustrate the fact that if you listen to all the stories that are considered the mainstream of things, you're not going to have good mental health. I'm sorry, not sorry. If you listen to the accepted, published medical model on mental illness and mental health, you're not going to get better. I, I'm sorry, you're not. And again, I'm speaking from extensive experience here. Okay. Extensive experience of seeing people in therapy week in and week out, thousands upon thousands of hours, lots and lots of people. I have deviated with these folks. With most of my clients, I just deviate from the norm and engage a different type of treatment with them. Not necessarily stuff that I've made up on my own, but stuff that's not necessarily mainstream, for example. But like the standard medical model will say, well, if you're depressed, you need to take SSRIs, you need to take drugs. Whereas I'm like, go out and move, okay? Spend time with friends, go outside, get exercise, stay busy, involve yourself in something creative, do something with yourself, keep moving. You're going to feel far less depressed. And I've proven it over and over and over again. I will give young people a list of things to do, and I'll say, I want you to do this stuff every day for at least 1 week until I see you again. And when you come back, tell me how it goes. Without fail, they feel better. Without fail. Every single time, they feel better. Some of them are a bit grouchy and snarky about it. I remember one kid, I said, how are you feeling? She goes, better. And I'm like, did that stuff work? Yes. I'm like, what? What's with the attitude? You know what she said? I didn't want that to work. And I'm like, well, if it works, it works. Who cares? Why are we so invested on what should work and what should not? What's supposed to work and what's supposed to not work? If you're just getting better, who cares? If it helps you, then it helps you. If life is going better, then life is going better, right? That's the goal. That's the end game. Mission accomplished. But people are way too attached to the method, right? I am absolutely convinced that more and more people would find good mental health if they stop getting so hung up on the method. Like they want certain things to work. They don't like the right answer, so they reject them. It's like, and then they just stay miserable, right? There are a lot of differences between people who get better and people who don't. And one of those differences is that people who get better, they just accept the right answers wherever they might find them and just integrate it without griping or complaining and saying, I'm just going to do what works. That's it. I'm going to find what works. I'm going to do it. That's it. And that is a complete sentence. End of story. And instead, we're too wrapped up in like, well, certain things are supposed to work. So I'm just going to keep doing the things that are supposed to work, even though they don't. But that's a lot of what my content is about, right? Question the narratives, challenge them. Don't just accept everything that you're told. Don't just accept everything that you're given. If it doesn't work, you got to do something different. So this is going to lead me into my main topic of this episode, which again, I'm going to talk about sadness. Why sadness is good. Why sadness is healthy. Why you need it. Why it's healthy, etc., etc., etc. People will tell me sadness is bad. I don't like feeling sad, right? And I'll say, okay, what's wrong with it? It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. Some people will say, I feel vulnerable when I'm sad. I feel a lot more vulnerability when I'm sad. So I'm going to address that part of it, the vulnerability part of it. Sure, yeah, you are more vulnerable when you're sad. But there's a lot of good things about being sad. It's a good thing. First of all, if you experience sadness, and if you experience sadness often, congratulations, you're not a psychopath. I mean, right? Good news. I have excellent news. If you experience emotion of sadness, you're not a psychopath. Congratulations. Your sadness is a message telling you you're human, you're alive, you're connected, you're not lost, right? Like people who don't feel sadness, and they don't feel a sense of like, oh, sad things are happening to people or animals or whatever, like that's a concern. If you don't feel any sadness, that might be a problem. In my experience, most people experience sadness, or, in my experience, most people go through sadness. They feel sadness. It's a good thing. They feel sad. And a lot of times too, they're denying their own sadness experience because they've just got into their heads that it's a bad thing. They're like, nope, I don't want to feel sad. Sad, bad. Nope, boop, nope. Go away, go away, go away. So many problems arise when you're just trying to chase away what seems to be a negative experience when those negative experiences can really, really teach you a lot. The next point I want to make about sadness is that it's actually good for you. Sadness is a healthy emotion. When you allow yourself to feel sadness, it's going to help you grieve. Grieving is a process. If you hold on to grief and you stuff it down and you feel sadness and you stuff it down and you just push it way down, you're just going to get all kinds of emotional problems and emotional issues. It's a very unhealthy thing to do. Think of like if you drank a lot of liquid, but you refuse to use the toilet. You just want to hold all of your urine inside of you because you don't like the process of urinating. It's uncomfortable and it's gross. You don't like it, so you're just gonna hold it all in. Like some emotions, they need to come out. They have to move through you. They have to move through you like a liquid does or like water does. And if you just hold it in and just push it down and just shove it down, it's gonna make you sick. It's just gonna make you sick. That's the way of it. If you refuse to allow yourself the experience of sadness, it's gonna make you sick. Um, it's just gonna make you sick. You're probably more likely to be more detached, more disconnected. This is actually my next point. Is sadness is a very, very connecting emotion. Okay, sadness exists because of connection. We don't. I don't think we put enough emphasis, especially in psychology, especially in therapy. We don't put enough emphasis on the need for positive, loving connections. Like connections are so important. You have to experience connection. If you don't feel connected, if you lack connectedness, and yes, connectedness is going to be vulnerable. Your vulnerability is going to increase. I will address the vulnerability issue here in a little bit, so hang in there. But a lot of sadness stems from the fact that you've had really, really super positive connections. Okay, right? If you have a beloved pet, a pet that you've just loved, and I mention this example because I'm looking at one right now who's asleep, and like I love this cat. I'm not gonna lie. This cat is like she is such a great cat. She is so sweet and cuddly, and just she is one of the most gentle creatures I have ever encountered in my life. I adore this animal. I absolutely adore her. She's just every day. Just she brings so much good in my life, and I will more than likely outlive her. And yes, I will feel extremely sad when that day comes, but I will always cherish having her in my life. Right? If you have a beloved pet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we can't, right? Like we can't say no, no pets. One day I might lose them and I may feel sad, so I'm going to skip the happiness and the connection and the joy that they bring me. I'm going to extract the two. So it's like these things go together, right? Connectiveness and sadness. They just go together. You can't feel a sense of sadness if you haven't felt a sense of connectedness, and vice versa. You can't feel connectedness if you aren't feeling a sense of sadness. Like sadness is part of that empathy and part of that connectiveness. Now, when I realized this, I started directing my thoughts to where the connection lies, right? Like, I'm feeling sad. Where is that connection? And then it kind of makes the experience very rich and I feel more connected. So this is what I started doing in my life, again, because I don't just talk about this stuff, I live it. When I started feeling really sad, what I started to do instead is look for where I feel a lot more connected, right? So one thing that I love is music. So when I feel sad, I start listening to music that I love, and then I just enjoy it so much more. Suddenly it enriches the experience of listening to music. And I love music. I love good music. And I'm very picky about my particular music taste. And there's a lot of music that I absolutely love from various different artists and bands. With that feeling of connectedness, a lot more creativity comes forth. Writing is one of my things. I enjoy writing, and some of my best writing comes when I'm feeling sad. So it's like, okay, I'm connected to the music that I listen to, and now I'm feeling a connectedness to my creative process here. And excuse me. And I would make the argument too that so many of the artists that we love, so much of the creativity and music and stuff that we love has come from people who are in a place of sadness, partially, because again, sadness is going to help you. It's like if you can lean into the experience rather than just trying to get rid of it and chase it away. No, 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 no. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. Right? You're going to find that you may feel a lot more connected. I notice that when I'm sad and I'm just really leaning into it, and I'm really allowing the sadness to happen, I start thinking about the people in my life that I love the most, and friends and family members that I care the most about. And before you know it, I'm texting them. I'm just telling them that I appreciate them and that I love them and that I miss them. There's a quick bullet point here that I meant to mention earlier. I'm going to go back. So go backwards just a little bit. I need to clear up misconception, false idea about sadness. Okay, a lot of people think that sadness and depression are the same thing. They are not. When I ask people to tell me what they think depression is, what depression means, almost universally they say it's feeling sad, and I'm like, no, sorry. So we need to debunk this. Depression is absolutely not sadness. I mean, I guess you could let sadness take you into a depression. I guess you could do that. They're not the same things. We need to clear that piece up. Depression absolutely is not sadness, and sadness is not depression. They're very different things. Again, the experience of sadness is a positive and healthy thing if you let it be, whereas depression is not. Depression is getting stuck and bogged down with, to me, sadness is an intense emotion. Depression is a lot of blah. It's just a lot of nothing. And I think I mentioned this in previous episodes. I get seasonal depression in the summer. I know it's weird. I know it's backwards. I had it really bad this past summer. I don't understand why. It kicked my ass. My depression was so bad this year. My summer depression, it just absolutely kicked my ass. It was intense. For me, it was mostly defined by this feeling of blah, disconnectedness. Yeah, it sucked. It just flat out sucked. I hated it. So no, depression is not sadness. Sadness is not depression. Get that nonsense out of your mind. That's crap. That's BS. That's false. My next point about sadness comes from an excerpt from a book. I've only dabbled in it. I haven't read it. I have so many books. It's just really hard. I don't spend nearly enough time reading every day as I would ideally like to. So it takes me a while to get through books. But one of the books that I have is called Sick Like Us, and it's basically a study or an examination, assessment really of how like mental illness in the West is pathologized and spread like a pathology. And in one of the chapters, it talks about how at some point, I think it was in the 90s. I should probably look it up instead of just talking out of my ass. So I like don't chisel this into stone. This is what I can remember. Okay. I believe it's in the 90s that drug companies wanted to market and sell antidepressants, SSRI medication in Japan because they're basically making zero money from these drugs in Japan. Because in Japan, culturally, they see sadness and melancholy as a good thing. They see it as a deep, rich, connected experience, which is what I've been expressing or what I've been saying here, because that's just been my experience with it. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling kind of blue, kind of melancholy, to me, that is a perfect opportunity to just like deepen and enrich your sense of connection. Okay. And along with those connections too, we cannot skip over how sadness is a great way to learn how to be more connected with yourself. Just one of the things that I harp on all the time is the importance of having a good, positive, connected relationship with yourself, your own individual journey. Really important to have a deep, connected experience with that, probably more than anything. You're not going to have good mental health as long as you have a bad relationship with yourself. Something something that I say all the time. I harp on that all the time. But as the story goes, the drug companies tried to move into Japan, convince them that sadness was a bad emotion, that if you're feeling down or blue or melancholy or whatever, that is a false or wrong, incorrect, or unhealthy emotion. And that means that something's bad or something's wrong or that you have some sort of illness. And the cure, of course, is their drugs. And if I remember correctly, that these drug companies, they did a massive campaign, right? Advertising campaign. You can call it propaganda if you want to. I think it's kind of a fitting term to call it that. But basically trying to convince these Japanese people, hey, you feeling sad and melancholy? That's bad. That's wrong. You're not supposed to feel bad ever. As though, like in life, you're just supposed to feel good all of the time. And if you're not feeling good all of the time, something's wrong and you need drugs. So if I remember correctly, that the Japanese, right, they hold this as just one of their cultural values. That sadness and melancholy is a time for reflection, connection, and creativity. And frankly, that is an ugly thing to try and take away from people. It's an ugly thing to try and carve out of a culture and convince them is wrong or bad. I mean, what an ugly thing to do. But anything for money, right? Bottom line, it's all about the bottom line. Okay, let's get into the vulnerability part of sadness. Vulnerability is just another one of those things where people think like it's an uncomfortable emotion and I just have to get rid of it as fast as I can. We're not supposed to feel anything negative or anything uncomfortable ever, ever, ever. I really believe, by the way, that this is just a big part of the equation when it comes to the deterioration of our culture, of our society, and our collective mental health, is this idea that you're just supposed to feel good all of the time. And I feel like that's ruining us, actually. I believe that is bringing us a speedy, speedy ruin. You have to feel uncomfortable, and being uncomfortable is really, really good for you. It's going to force you to grow. Growth is good. Growth is part of your purpose. But you are sold this lie because it's a moneymaker. Comfort, if it's comfortable or easy and feeling good all of the time, that's the way of happiness. That's the way of feeling good. That's the way of having a life of being fulfilled. It's not. That's completely false. Again, it's a lie that they sell you. It's a highly lucrative lie. It makes a lot of money. But again, vulnerability is another one of those emotions that when you feel vulnerable, it's like, go away, go away, go away, go away. And what you need to learn to do if you want to be mentally healthy is learn to recognize when you're having these uncomfortable emotions. Let them happen. Let the emotion take place. Let the emotion unfold. Just allow it to happen. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to try and do anything with it. You don't have to necessarily take action. Sometimes it can be extremely positive and extremely healthy, very good for you to just let the emotion and the experience of that emotion unfold the way that it needs to. Just be with it. Just sit with it. Maybe that means listening to music. Maybe that means doing some writing. Maybe you just stare at the ceiling while you're listening to music. Okay. Just let yourself feel vulnerable and let yourself feel sad. So a lot of people will say, well, when I'm vulnerable, I get hurt. Okay, vulnerability equals pain. That when I'm vulnerable, other people will hurt me. Okay, well, here's your solution then. Don't include other people in your sadness and vulnerability rituals. Healthy people, mentally healthy people, will usually have some kind of solitude practice. They practice healthy solitude. They avoid isolation, and they just have certain periods of alone time, and they enrich that alone time, with music and creativity. For me, it's my staples are music, writing, reading, and meditation. I mean, those are the main things that I do with my time in solitude. But it's my time. The only individuals who are invited in my solitude practice are furry, are my cats. They're not going to take advantage of my vulnerability. Matter of fact, they, One of them specifically, she tends to get a little bit more cuddly. She's just more sweet. And it's nice. It's nice to have her just crawl into my lap and mew and purr, and it's great, right? So you don't, if you feel sadness and you feel vulnerable, like kick people out of that. If you're accustomed to people saying that you're vulnerable and they're going to take advantage of you, then don't allow yourself to be vulnerable or sad around other people. If you create a deeper connection with yourself through your solitude practice and allowing yourself to feel vulnerable, you might realize that person is not good for me. And I am a full supporter that if people cannot behave respectfully or supportively in your life, maybe you need to kick them out. I'm a big supporter in that. That probably could be and should be an entirely separate episode when it comes to having healthy people in your life, right? So that's just a huge, huge, huge factor. So if you sit down and you just let the experience of sadness and vulnerability just unfold, don't try to get rid of it, just sit with it. Just let it happen. Ride it out. I promise you're going to be just fine. I super, super promise you're going to be just fine. And if you stop resisting the experience and just completely go with it and let the whole thing happen, you want to know what actually happens when you do that? It goes away very, very, very quickly. Pain usually persists when we resist it. If you feel sadness and you resist it, if you feel vulnerable and you resist it, you're like, ew, no, go away. The resistance makes the situation 10 times worse. Like if you can kind of learn to surrender to it and just be like, yeah, I'm feeling sad right now. I'm fine with that. Feels good. I need it. And then like allow yourself to deepen those connections. Sadness turns into a really, really positive experience. Here's what I've noticed, because I will go periods of time where I'm not feeling that type of, like getting into that zone. Here's what I've noticed about myself. When I am not going into that state of sadness and melancholy and vulnerability, I just feel more disconnected. I get angrier. I get more irritable. I get more disconnected. I feel more hostile, more contempt for people and life in general. I feel walled up and more apathetic, like more emotionally detached. Sad, like I have gotten to the place in my life where if I haven't allowed myself to feel some degree of sadness for some time, I literally, I feel worse. I feel worse when that doesn't happen. It's very interesting. And I believe a lot more people would find the same thing is true for them if they would just take the time to let that experience unfold for them. So seriously, take some time, allow yourself to feel sadness, vulnerability, melancholy, whatever. Deliberately and intentionally see what you can do to deepen your connections. Okay, deepen your connections with pets or animals or creativity or music, or maybe even like my meditations are so much better when I'm got a little bit of sadness hanging around. And just see how you feel. See how it goes for you. Just notice what happens. All right, savvy? Okay, let's finish this off with some shadow work journal prompts. As always, I like to include some shadow work journal prompts for my listeners. To me, shadow work is a very, very important part of improving yourself, finding good mental health. If you're new here, you're not familiar with shadow work. Shadow work is basically getting into the depths of your psyche to understand yourself better, to understand what moves you, what drives you, what motivates you, and how you're wired. The reason why we do shadow work is it's how we help rewire our programming, change the source code. So every episode now, I've been doing shadow work journal prompts, usually at the end. They generally tend to have a greater impact if you do them in writing. I usually recommend for people to get a separate journal or notebook just for their shadow work journal prompts or their shadow work. Again, I do shadow work journal prompts every episode now. Let me give a very brief disclaimer before I dive into it. I'm a therapist. I'm not your therapist. Use your own discretion about whether or not you want to do these or whether or not it's appropriate for you. And depending on your personal situation, especially if you've had a lot of trauma, you may need the help of a qualified mental health professional to help you with it. These journal prompts, of course, are going to reflect the topic of the show. So let's dive into it. Okay? Question number 1. What is my attitude or belief regarding sadness? Number 2, what is the origins of that attitude/belief? How or where did that attitude or belief develop or form? That's an important question because, sometimes you believe something just because you were told that belief from a very young age. You haven't actually gone through the process of testing that belief. We want to test or challenge that belief. So what are the origins of your belief about sadness? Number 3, what happens? What do I do if I feel sad? What do I do with that emotion? How do I react to it? What is my response to it? Okay, number 4, this one is mostly for those who have a really negative relationship with sadness. But number 4 is, what is my fear around sadness or allowing myself to feel sadness fully? What am I afraid will happen if I do that? Okay, and finally, number 5, this is some homework. You can do it. It's totally up to you. Allow yourself some time for healthy solitude when you can allow yourself to feel some sadness, some melancholy, and some vulnerability, and see if you can turn that sadness into deepening your connections. Again, I gave several examples. I'm going to run through them one more time. See if it can help you deepen your connection with yourself, maybe with a pet, with music, with creativity, or maybe even deepen your connections to nature or even other people. And then you may want to document your experience, right? Write it down, put it in your journal, talk about what you noticed and what you learned from the experience. Okay, I'm wrapping this up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Please tell your friends. Help me grow my audience. Go check out my website, saltcitycounseling.com. You also follow me on X, please. That will be in the link. The link will be in the show notes. I don't have it off the top of my head. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you next time. And remember, you must do hard things.